Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special interview on Newswave, Trinity University student news broadcast on campus station TigerTV. My name is Nguyen, class of 2024, and here with me today is the newly appointed 20th president of Trinity University, President Vanessa Beasley. President Beasley, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Danny.
Yes, so, first off, of course, congratulations on your appointment, and of course, welcome to Trinity. Could you please introduce yourself so that the audience could get to know a little bit more about you?
Absolutely. So you know my name, so I don't have to say that again. I am a scholar of political rhetoric and with a particular emphasis on the history of the U.S. presidency and how it's changed as our mass media system has changed in the United States and globally. So that's what I love to study. That's what my books and publications are about. I was very fortunate to have taught and researched at 4 other universities before coming to Trinity, so 2 publics and 2 privates. So I have a pretty good sense of how different types of universities work. And I'm also the partner and spouse of Trey Beasley. He's also here with me on campus. We've been married 32 years, and we have 2 children, Adam, who's 24 and lives in Houston, and Charlie, who's 19 and lives in Kentucky.
Sweet. And so what drew you to Trinity and the presidential position?
So it actually starts with a story about one of my children. My son Adam and I in 2014 I was already in San Antonio for a conference, and he had just finished his sophomore year in high school. We lived in Nashville, and he had always really been interested in Texas universities. And so we decided to start touring, and Trinity was our first stop. He flew out and met me in San Antonio, and we did the Trinity tour. And I've told several people this, but it's still such a happy memory for me. When we were taking the tour, not only was I, charmed by the beauty of the campus and really struck by how distinctive it is, but we also saw, just walking around, some faculty and student interactions, and in particular, it's not the building that CSI is now, but in that area, the building that was before CSI renovation happened, particularly in the science areas, which was what he thought he was going to study then. And I kept saying to him, usually the students that would be working with faculty in labs, as one example, but we could be talking about libraries, archives, writing studio, doesn't matter. Usually at a university, those are going to be PhD students that the faculty are giving most of their attention to. And I've always believed that, especially with bright undergraduates, we should be offering, in the general sense of higher ed, we should be offering more students more opportunities for that kind of, oh my gosh, this is how a discovery is made, or this is what it takes to write a beautiful poem. So I said to Adam, that seems like Trinity's really good at that. And that's where you want to be, where a faculty member cares about you and your growth and also is inviting you into the spaces that they care about. So fast forward to all these years later, when I saw the email in my inbox about this presidency, I opened it and read it, and I thought, wow, the things that Trinity wants to do now still have that faculty-student engagement at their core, but also taking the next step forward with regard to redefining the liberal arts. And I got really excited about it. So thought about it for a few weeks and thought, I'm going to put my name in.
Yeah. So now that you, how was your first reaction coming back to campus here? I mean, definitely, I'm sure you might or might not have visited campus after you had a tour with your son here. But what was your first reaction coming back to San Antonio and seeing the Trinity campus?
It's so beautiful. I mean, it's one of the jobs that I had in my previous position at Vanderbilt was working with architects and finance people on a variety of different campus construction projects and the design of them to make sure that our students are learning. And so when we talk about that in general in higher ed, we talk about what's the academic program and then what kind of space do we need for it. And so this time coming back to campus with that knowledge that I didn't have in 2014, I thought, wow, this campus is designed for learning. It's beautiful. I've read a lot about O'Neill Ford since I got the position, and the historic value is meaningful to me. The modernist style is very attractive to me. And the last thing I'll say about that, Danny, is I feel like a campus like Trinity's is designed intentionally and because of the time that it was constructed to be welcoming to many traditions. Sometimes when you're at a college campus, you can see, oh, this was just meant to welcome these kinds of people at this kind of time. And some of those spaces are beautiful and historic. And when I walk around our campus, I feel like, oh, this is an architecture that invites people in, both through the light, beautiful spaces we have, and also through the fact that it's a style that works with many different cultural traditions.
Wow, that's great to hear. Well, I'm glad you liked it. And so, it's still very early. You just started maybe 1.5 months ago?
I think Last week I passed my 30th day, so I think I'm around day
Yeah.
34 right now.
Yeah. So I mean, like, even though everything's still very fresh, what do you hope to accomplish here in your time here at Trinity?
I think as a new leader coming from another institution, I've thought about my goals in more or less time-bound ways. So this first year, I very much want to listen and meet as many people as possible, meet as many students, meet faculty, meet members of the San Antonio community, because I'm coming to this position with a great deal of humility for the fact that an outsider can never come in and start telling you from day one, here's how we're going to do things, right? I want to learn the culture. I want to think with strategic partners and including all the members of the communities I just talked about what they think Trinity's needs are. So with a very clear sense from all of the senior leadership that we're aligned on making sure Trinity shines as a national liberal arts university, having the ability to talk to people about what other needs they see.
Yeah, I mean, as serving as one of the student body presidents, we have met before, and it's super exciting. We're definitely opening a new chapter. Our school is, with our 153-year history, it's super exciting to see where we can go from here. Now that we've reclassified, I think it will help both students' perspectives, but also alumni too in the background.
I do too, Danny, and I love the way you just said that. For me, what's really exciting is to think about, what the next step is, what the next level is, and also how we might get there by perhaps paradoxically going back to the basic things that matter, that faculty-student engagement. Are we offering enough opportunities for enough people to do internships, to do, to have those research experience? Summer research here is a great example. I love how robust that is. So, so some of that moving forward is just back to, okay, what are the basic things we want to really excel at?
Yeah. And across the nation, we've had a difficult period in our recent history. It's been kind of chaotic for everyone, and I'm sure you experienced, and we've all experienced it both, here at Trinity, but also at, your previous institutions, from pandemics to political turmoil to social injustices. How do you think we should move forward into this new era, and how do you think we as the Trinity community can begin our new chapter?
Yeah, thank you, Dane. That's a very thoughtful question. So I study political rhetoric. And when people think about political rhetoric, they might have a tendency to think about, as is appropriate, what's coming out of somebody's mouth, the speeches, the messages. And to your point, we've certainly heard a lot of political rhetoric, and we always will in a democracy. That's one of the great freedoms that we have. The way I'm going to answer your question is, the last few years, I've really started challenging myself to think not only about what I say, what I'm speaking into the world and to colleagues, but also how I listen. And that's how I would answer your question. It's a really important moment to think about how we're listening to each other. And listening's a skill. It's something that we can do easily, or we think we can do easily for the most part, but actually learning how to listen in what I call a non-reactive way. Because I study argument, I find it really fascinating to sit down and, or read something or hear something someone's saying and thinking, I never would have made that argument. How would somebody have made that argument? What's their evidence? And how do you decide what's good evidence and bad evidence? How do they connect evidence to that argument? Some of those analytical skills that are part of my training and many other scholars' training too. I think the volume has been turned up, if you will, for a while now. And for me, it feels like a great time to say, all right, everybody, the only way through whatever's coming next is to be together, right? And even with people that you don't agree with, that's actually really important to find common cause, even if that's just for the sake of building community. Community is precious. And so we can't get there unless we learn to listen to each other better. It's really important.
And that as a student, I've noticed like our community is pretty unique, our Trinity community, in that even though we come from completely different backgrounds, we do have a sense of bondness in this familial atmosphere. That I think that even though we kind of go through these obstacles and hurdles, we all kind of overcome them together, and we kind of leave our opinions aside, and we have a respect for each other to kind of move on forward.
I think that's really important, right? And how to do that. I want you to have opinions. I want you to have political views. I want everybody to have a sense of what matters to them. That's really important to be able to articulate it for yourself. It's also true that you and I can work together beautifully on a committee for the good of the university, in your role and my role, even if we don't agree on politics, right? And I think for many parts of society, we've lost sight of that. We don't have to agree on everything to work together to make the community stronger. That's an area where I'd like to see our community grow.
And on a lighter note, as we move beyond, talking about our past, how's your experience here at Trinity so far? Like, what are your first reactions, first thoughts?
Everybody has been very welcoming. I will say I took a few weeks when I first got here at the end of July to basically have some behind the scenes time, if you call it that, because there are things as a candidate for a position such as the presidency that you can't see, that you shouldn't see, right? Anything from financial information to legal information. And so once you have the title, you need to see those things and you need to understand how systems work. So I have a wonderful set of colleagues, all the vice presidents and our general counsel. And being able to be with them and think about, tell me what's in your portfolio. I really want to, again, very respectfully understand how things work here. And they did a great job with that. And then after that, we started to have some meetings, including with SGA, and start to, again, do what I'm talking about, listen to everyone. So within all of that context, everybody's been so warm. Everybody's been so enthusiastic and welcoming. And I'd say everybody's also shown a tremendous amount of energy in whatever the next level is. Like I said, I have a pretty clear vision, but I want to hear from other people too. Everybody's shown just an eagerness to like, okay, let's do this. So that's great.
And so, shifting gears away from just, Trinity, let's talk about San Antonio. Right. So, you've just moved down to San Antonio pretty recently. How's your experience so far, and have you found any fun things to do down here in San Antonio?
So I'll start by saying I have lived in Houston, Dallas, and Austin. In fact, one of my children was born in Houston and the other one was born in Dallas. And I went to graduate school at Austin at the University of Texas. And so San Antonio was a destination that I had visited. I mentioned going to a conference here. I've been to weddings here, but I'd never been here for longer than maybe 3 or 4 days. And so I've been so amazed already with a couple of things. One is the public art scene, the tremendous art that you can see, especially walking on different parts of the Riverwalk that aren't necessarily the main part of it, right? So that tells me that it's a city that values beauty, that it's a city that values expression. Those things are really important to me too, so I see a lot of alignment. The second thing that I would say about the city is San Antonio's unique history, even relative to other Texas cities. It's not just the amount of time San Antonio has been San Antonio, which is really amazing, actually. It's like I think it's one of the top 10 oldest cities in the United States, but also the way that I still see people honoring indigenous cultures. I still see people honoring Mexican culture. So the fact that those cultures can coexist, and I know it's not always easy, but the respect that seems to be paid from one culture to another, again, especially as it relates to art and expression and different traditions, that's beautiful, right? I mean, that's to be cherished. And so I'm really enjoying getting to know more about the city and looking for those moments in particular.
I mean, as a San Antonio native, born and raised here, that's definitely music to my ears. We are over 300 years old. We celebrated our tricentennial not too long ago. So the amount of culture we have here and the fact that you can see different communities, very tight-knit communities on all parts of San Antonio, whether it's in the inner west side or from the north side, or you get a lot of different cultures to experience. And I can't wait for when April comes by and Fiesta comes in. And I'm excited to see your experiences at Fiesta too, and the many fun events we have down the road, whether it's also the MLK March that we also do annually. So I'm just excited to see what you think of San Antonio after you at least been here for at least a year.
I really appreciate that invitation, the invitation I hear, and also knowing that, and I have a colleague that can teach me about different areas of San Antonio. Since we've only been here, a little more than 30 days, I've been mostly unpacking and mostly in this, and also learning about the university, mostly just in this area. So I'm really excited about venturing out to other parts of the city, and again, with great respect for the traditions I'll find there, just learning and observing and probably eating some amazing food. I'm excited about that.
Sounds
too.
like plans have been made. Plans have been made. So let's take let's look into the future.
Okay.
Let's see, where do you want to see Trinity, let's say 20 years from now? Where are you looking forward to?
So this is not just my belief, I know this. Trinity is in a very unique position to shine as a national liberal arts university. I say national because I think I've had the experience with my friends, people saying, oh yeah, Trinity, this is not necessarily related to my presidency, but over 20, 25 years, people saying Trinity is great. It's a little gem, or like it's a little, it's this hidden jewel. And I'm like, what's hidden about it? It's right, it's here. And it's is shining so brightly, to use the jewel metaphor. So I think in 20 years, I would predict with great confidence that a couple of things will have happened. One is more people around the nation and around the world will understand what Trinity University stands for, and most importantly, the education that it offers and the value of that education. I'm starting to work with some colleagues to think about, like, are we expressing that the right way? Are we talking about that the right way? So in 20 years from now, you know, I love to communicate. That's my field. So 20 years from now, I know we'll have that down, and more people will know about Trinity. And then I would say the second part of what I can predict accurately is now we're in a time of not just other kinds of innovation with regard to tech, but also educational innovation, right? So there's a lot of people who would say post-COVID, online education's not going away. And I'm really excited about the differentiation you're going to see across educational and institutional types, because there's no one size fits all in higher ed. Trinity is a wonderful place for a particular kind of student. Which is one of the reasons I was so happy my son and I toured here. But it doesn't have to be for everybody. So I'd say that we are increasingly selecting the kinds of students who are going to thrive here and take the Trinity education, and then perhaps stay in San Antonio, perhaps go wherever they're going to go next, and spread the value of that liberal arts education to the next phase in their life too.
I mean, coming from San Antonio, I mean, Trinity's always been in my backyard. And so the fact that I get to be here, you know, getting to do these many different opportunities that I have been able to, you know, acquire and, you know, thrive in here at Trinity, it's super an exciting experience. And I definitely really do want to see what it looks like 20 years from now. Maybe I'll still be here.
I think here's the deal, Danny. In 20 years, you can call me and we'll figure this out together. But I bet you what you'll find by then is that the degree that you'll have then, that people already respect now, will be even more respected and valued then.
And I really do hope so too.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so, you know, the last question of today's interview, and this is, you can look towards one of our mini cameras here for our interview. What do you want to say to the Trinity community?
Okay, I'm going to look at this camera and say, first of all, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the warm welcome that I've received from students, faculty, and staff. Thank you for being the special community that drew me here in the first place. And I've said this to several people already, so this might be repetitive to some of you, but I'm here because you're here. My job as president is to lead and to lead us into the next chapter in Trinity's history. It does feel like there's palpable energy, that we're at what we're talking about as an inflection point. And I think that's right. And it's also right that it just won't be one person who gets us there. It will be our joining together as one community to make the Trinity experience shine even brighter, and to make the value of your education even more obvious in the future. So please join me in that effort. And I want to hear from you about what made Trinity special for you.
Wow. So that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you to President Vanessa Beasley for being here, and to the Trinity community and beyond. Stay safe and stay healthy. This is Nguyen, Newswave 14 reporting.